He never expected that one leftover sandwich would change his entire life. Marcus Johnson stood outside the busy downtown cafe in Chicago, the cold wind cutting through his thin jacket, his stomach growling louder than the traffic. Just hours earlier he had been fired from the warehouse job that barely paid the bills. 2 little kids waited at home, and all he had left in his bag was a half-eaten turkey sandwich and the last of his pride. Then he saw her, an elderly woman sitting alone on a bench, hands trembling, eyes fixed on the ground like she had nowhere left to go. What happened next shocked everyone who ever heard the story. If this story already touches your heart, take a second to subscribe to Whispers of Heart 0.2, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling us the last time someone's kindness surprised you. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them. Marcus was 34, a black single dad who had raised his 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter alone ever since their mother walked out 3 years ago. He worked double shifts, stretched every dollar, and still fell short most months. That morning the supervisor had called him into the office and said the company was cutting hours. Marcus was the one they let go. No warning. No severance. Just a cardboard box and a bus ride home with empty pockets. He had bought the sandwich earlier with the last $5 in his wallet, planning to split it with the kids. But when he stepped off the bus near the cafe, he saw the old woman. She looked to be in her late 70s, silver hair tucked under a faded scarf, a thin coat that did nothing against the November chill. Her shopping bag sat empty beside her. She kept rubbing her hands together like she was trying to warm them with pure willpower. Marcus walked past her at first. He told himself he couldn't afford to stop. His own children needed that food more. Yet something made him turn around. Maybe it was the way she stared at the cafe window where people inside laughed over steaming coffee and full plates. Or maybe it was the quiet way she whispered, "I'm just so hungry," to no one in particular. He sat down on the bench beside her. "Ma'am, you all right?" She looked up, startled, then managed a small smile. "I've been better, young man. My name's Eleanor. I got a little turned around this morning and missed my bus. Thought I'd wait here, but the cold got the better of me." Marcus opened his bag and pulled out the sandwich. It wasn't much, just bread, turkey, and a thin slice of cheese. He tore it in half and held one piece out. "Here. It's not fancy, but it's yours if you want it." Eleanor's eyes filled. She took the sandwich with both hands like it was the most precious thing she had been given in years. They sat together on that cold bench and ate in silence for a few minutes. She told him she lived alone now. Her only son traveled constantly for work and rarely made it home. She had come downtown hoping to visit an old friend, but the friend had moved without telling her. Marcus listened. He talked about his kids, about how he wanted them to grow up knowing that people still looked out for one another even when times were hard. When the sandwich was gone, Eleanor squeezed his hand. "You didn't have to do that. Most folks walk right past." Marcus helped her to the nearest bus stop and made sure she got on the right route home. He walked the rest of the way to his apartment, stomach still empty, but somehow lighter. That night he heated a can of soup for the kids and told them a story about sharing. He never expected to see Eleanor again. 3 days later a black car pulled up outside the warehouse where Marcus used to work. A man in a tailored suit stepped out and asked for him by name. Marcus was there picking up his final paycheck. The man introduced himself as David Harrington, CEO of Harrington Global, one of the largest tech firms in the country. My mother called me yesterday, David said. She told me about a stranger who sat with her on a freezing bench and gave her half of the only food he had. She described you perfectly. I had my people find you. Marcus stood frozen. David continued, voice quieter now. My mother has early-stage Alzheimer's. Some days she remembers everything. Some days she gets lost. I've been so focused on building this company that I forgot the one person who never forgot me. You reminded her, and me, what kindness still looks like. David offered Marcus a job on the spot. Not just any job, a full-time position in the company's community outreach program with a salary 3 times what he had earned at the warehouse, health insurance for the kids, and a signing bonus large enough to catch up on rent. Marcus almost refused. It felt too big, too sudden. But David insisted. This isn't charity. It's recognition. The world needs more people who stop when others walk by. Within a month Marcus had moved his family into a small but safe apartment closer to better schools. The kids had new coats that actually kept them warm. Every Friday evening David's driver brought Eleanor to their place for dinner. She sat at the table with Marcus's children and taught them how to fold paper boats the way her own mother had taught her. Some nights she remembered every detail of that cold afternoon on the bench. Other nights she simply smiled and said, "You're the young man with the sandwich." Either way, she was family now. Word spread through the company about the single dad who had fed the boss's mother. Employees started small kindness challenges, leaving extra lunches in the break room, checking on elderly neighbors, paying for the coffee of the person behind them in line. Marcus never sought attention, but the story found its way onto local news. People wrote letters. Some sent gift cards for the kids. One woman drove 3 hours just to shake his hand and say her own mother had once been helped by a stranger the same way. Marcus still worked hard. He still worried about the future. But something had shifted. Kindness, he realized, was not a transaction. It was a seed. You planted it without knowing whether it would grow into a tall tree or simply keep one person warm for a single afternoon. Either way, it mattered. Years later, when reporters asked him what he remembered most about that day, Marcus always said the same thing. I didn't feed a billionaire's mother. I fed a hungry woman who looked cold. Everything else was just the universe deciding to pay attention. Eleanor passed away peacefully in her sleep 5 years after they met. At her memorial, David stood up and told the crowd the story of the sandwich one more time. Then he looked at Marcus and said, "My mother used to say that the measure of a man is not how much he has, but how much he is willing to share when he has almost nothing." Marcus taught us all that lesson. If this story stayed with you, remember that kindness does not require wealth or perfect timing. It only requires that you notice someone else's need and decide, for one moment, that their hunger matters as much as your own. Somewhere today a person is sitting alone on a bench, waiting for the world to prove it still has room for strangers who stop. Be the one who stops. Be the one who shares the sandwich. You never know whose life you might rewrite, including your own. And if you believe stories like this still need to be told, subscribe to Whispers of Heart 0.2, leave a comment with the kindest thing someone ever did for you, and pass this along to someone who could use a reminder that good still exists. The world changes one quiet act at a time.